And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I'm J.C. Kenney, and I want to wish everybody a happy third day of Hanukkah. Happy Christmas Eve 9 times over. And happy, I don't know how many days it is before winter solstice, but happy to that also. And happy even more days to Kwanzaa. So I think we got the holidays addressed here because we love you all. And enough of that, me babbling. Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish because we have a fantastic guest today.
We do. We are ending our 2025 year on a very, very high note with the
Yeah.
award-winning, acclaimed traditional mystery author, Connie Berry, who is here to chat about her wonderful Kate Hamilton mysteries that feature an American antiques dealer who just tears up the British Isles in all of these amazing adventures, finding all of these amazing artifacts and items. And I can't wait to dive in more because you guys know how much I love England and all of the fun stuff that happens in Great Britain. So Connie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for spending a moment with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Sarah and JC. I'm just delighted to be here.
We have we have so many questions for you, but before
Yeah.
we dive in, I want to make sure that I am saying hello to our wonderful viewers who are joining us here live. We have Farmhouse Reader saying greetings. We have Alma saying hello, Sarah, JC, and Connie from Arkansas. So glad to have a calendar date set. Yes. Alma, thank you for being here and for being with us live. We appreciate it. I will say that as I was reading Arkansas, I almost said Arkansas, and that should show you like how much I need a holiday vacation at this point. So thank you for being here. We have Regina saying hello, everyone. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy Kwanzaa to everyone. And Farmhouse Reader saying, I love antiques. So we have got the perfect show for you, Farmhouse Reader.
Yeah.
Because Connie knows antiques like no other. And to kind of kick things off by way of introduction, Connie, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background, what you were, what you were doing before you found your way into writing mysteries?
I had a pretty long before, so I don't know how much time you have, but I did grow up in a household with antiques collectors and then antique dealers. And it was actually my father who was the inspiration behind that because he had, as a child, grown up on the Rockefeller summer home estate in Lakewood, New Jersey.
Oh,
Oh,
His
wow.
grandparents, he was raised by his grandparents, and they were caretakers. And he had a chance to go inside this big house, which is no longer there, but they had a room they called the Chinese room. And it was old J.D. Rockefeller, I believe, who started this Asian art and antiquities collection. And his son and his grandsons have kept that going. And it's now so big, it's in different museums around the world. But at that point in
oh,
time,
wow.
which is a very long time ago, it was in, or part of it was in this house. And my dad just, as a little boy, he just fell in love with the beauty and the artistry and the technology that it would take. Technology meaning the way they were able to create these objects so long ago. And so that's the world that I grew up in. And but so I never did collect them, but I do live with antiques. So I live with the things that I grew up with that I loved. So the things that I have now aren't necessarily the most valuable. They're just the things that I loved.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that just kind of the world that I have lived in. For 25 years, I taught theology for an organization called BSF International. And so I trained leaders and I lectured, and that was wonderful. I loved that. And then in 2016, I retired and I decided because I had always wanted to write. In fact, I always have written. I wrote as a little girl, and I'll just real quickly tell you that story because it's kind of interesting, I think. My mom had been a teacher, and so when she had me, she stayed home, and she had one student. It was me. So I got a lot of attention, got a lot of reading. She read to me, and she just she was a beautiful reader and brought stories to life. And I fell in love with stories, wonderful stories about wonderful things that happened to people. And then I began to notice that my actual life wasn't as exciting as the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So
Man.
I started to embroider my life a little bit just to kind of spice things up. And you might call that fibbing, possibly. And my mother was pretty worried about that. And, but she was wise enough to take that desire to create something really interesting, and she got me writing stories. So channeled that into writing stories, and but then she kept them all, so I have them. And
Oh,
from
that's
the
Wow.
cool.
first ones where I'm just learning to print, to very short, to where I had, gone to cursive. And it's interesting to me that all the stories honestly have some mystery. No dead bodies in any of them, but they all have some really just an odd mystery that needs to be solved. And so I think it's just been in my heart and soul from the very beginning. But when I retired, I decided I was going to just go for it and write full time. And I had a manuscript completed, which you will know what I'm talking about when I say that. And I had a second one, the sequel, kind of partly done, a little bit done. And and I knew it wasn't right. I have a master's degree in English. I studied the modern British novel. In England. I knew enough to know it wasn't right, but I didn't know what was wrong. And I just kept saying to people, okay, tell me what's wrong and I'll fix it. Just tell me. And people were telling me a few things, but I wasn't paying attention to them. And so when I did retire, I thought, okay, I'm going to take their advice. And one piece of advice was, why don't you try putting it in first person rather than third?
Mm.
And when I did that, I was amazed at how the voice of my main character came to life for me and on the pages of the book. So I finished a huge revision, just massive revision. Went to Sleuth Fest in Florida and met um, my editor at Crooked Lane Books, and she, on the basis of that, gave me my first contract.
Wow.
Nice.
That's
That's so
amazing.
cool. Yeah, I love the fact that well, I love a lot of different parts of that story. That is just a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing it. But I love the fact that there was always kind of a little mystery in everything that you have written throughout your life, and I just think that's so cool. Um, so is maybe that why you gravitated to traditional mystery when you decided to write a novel?
Oh, well, absolutely. I read history and mystery, and my books combine those two loves that I have. But like most young girls, I read Nancy Drew. I
Mm-hmm.
started out reading her when I was very, very young. And then when I was about, I think, 10 or 11, at that time, I lived in a kind of a medium, smallish town in northern Illinois, and I could take the bus myself down to the library downtown. And so I would do that on Saturday. Every Saturday I would go down, and all I did was I just walked through the stacks, and I would just pull out books and just see if anything was interesting to me. And what I've told this story too, but I discovered, or thought I had personally discovered, Agatha Christie and P.G. Wodehouse. And I couldn't get enough of it. Like, P.G. Wodehouse was funny in a way that no one I knew was ever funny. And I had, just some obscure person and nobody else knew about it. The same with Agatha Christie. And when I discovered her, I put aside my Nancy Drew and went on to read Agatha Christie. And so I've always loved that kind of a story. Not really a cozy. It's not really suspense. It's certainly not a thriller, but that traditional mystery with this wonderful setting, really interesting characters, lots of possible suspects. someone who comes in from the outside. I love police procedurals, but I don't write them because I don't know enough about how policing works, although I have a policeman in my book. But that person who comes in who has some kind of a special ability, Kate Kate is called in sometimes by the police because of her expertise in antiques. So there always is lots of history objects that are involved in my plots.
I love
Yeah,
how you
just
said
always love
that
that.
you felt that you personally discovered Agatha Christie, because I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like I felt the same way about Mary Higgins Clark,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
because I started reading those when I was probably like 11 or 12. And my mom
Yeah.
had given me like a box of her Mary Higgins Clark books. So like none of my peers had like remotely even heard of Mary Higgins Clark. And I was like,
Yeah.
felt like I'm the only person in the world who's reading these.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, like how how our writing and how like who our characters are and all of that is shaped by the books and experiences that we have when we are young. Because I still am a huge Nancy Drew fan, and just like always continually trying to capture the magic of those books in my own writing. It just brings me such joy. And we
Yeah.
do have a couple comments, Connie, from our viewers. We do have DHB saying cheers to all. Welcome, DHB. Thanks for being here. Alma says that is so awesome that you have all of your stories, which I agree. Like that's such like
Yeah.
an amazing. Not only is it an amazing keepsake of your childhood, but like for your readers one day to be able to like just catch a glimpse of what little Connie was writing. I think that would be like a huge treat. Alma also says how much she loves historical mysteries. Alma, you and me both. And then we have Donna saying hello, Sarah, JC, and Connie. Welcome, Donna. Thanks for being here. So you've mentioned Connie about how Kate is often brought into these investigations because of her area of expertise. For folks who may not be familiar with the Kate Hamilton mysteries, can you kind of set the scene for us as to why there is an American antiques dealer just like crushing all of these mysteries across Scotland, England, the Great Britain in general. How did she get to be where she is?
Well, the first book is set in the Inner Hebrides of Scotland. I did have Scottish grandparents too, so that part kind of came, and I mean real Scottish grandparents, the and great grandparents. My dad was on the Scottish side, and I mean they came and brought Scotland with them. They didn't actually emigrate; they just brought Scotland with them. And so that was kind of a natural setting. But so Kate was married to a Scot who was born and grew up on a fictional island called Glenross Island. I've forgotten the name of it. I think it's Glenroth.
The Isle of
And
Glenroth.
yeah, the Isle of Glenroth, that's right. And his sister is still living there, and she has a country house hotel, this beautiful, house. And 2 weeks before her husband died, which he died very unexpectedly, he actually died on that island. They were over there
Oh, wow.
visiting. And 2 weeks before he died, he said to her one night, "If anything happens to me, make sure you watch out for my sister," because his sister was not too reliable about things and could get herself into trouble. Of course, she agreed, not knowing 2 weeks later. And then her sister-in-law reaches out and said, "I'm in bad trouble. I need your help." So she goes to the island. And then the plot kind of ensues, which I won't go into, but one of the people staying at the island is Tom Mallory, who's a detective inspector
Hmm.
in the Suffolk and Stafford.
Oop, we may have a little bit of
Season.
a.
He's
There we
by
go.
Sorry.
himself. And so in the second book, Kate has two college age children. Her daughter is going to Magdalen College at Oxford, and because that's where her father went. And she has a Christmas internship at a stately home in Suffolk, which happens to be about 30 miles from where Tom is based. So she goes over for the Christmas holidays to stay with her daughter, reconnects with Tom, and mayhem and murder ensue again. think of it. And then Kate and Tom fall in love, and she decides to stay in the UK permanently, and she meets a man named Ivor Tweedy who owns an antiquity shop. And he asks her to come and kind of partner with him. He's kind of a second father for Kate. He's never been married, never had children. He's really takes to Kate, loves Kate in his own interesting way. Um, so then that gets her involved in the antiques trade there.
With a name like Ivar Tweedy, I was just like, that has got to be one of my top favorite character names, because it is just it I don't know. There was just something about it that it gave so much of his personality just in his name itself. And I love that he becomes another connection for Kate, because from the world that JC and I write in, we're cozy mystery authors. So our setting is very, very, it's almost like a character within our books, because you have your cozies that are your charming small towns with the quirky characters and the cute shops that everybody can go to and gossip about the murder mystery. But where Kate, she is, and this leans into the traditional mystery aspect of, her setting is important, but she is also visiting a lot of really interesting places, because and I forget which book it is, but they go to Devon for their honeymoon, and so your setting is this important character, but it's not a setting that that readers come back to time and time again, because it's always changing. And I'm wondering for you, what's the research like on that end? Because you have to create this atmosphere that is realistic for some of these places that do exist over in Great Britain, and I'm wondering, like, how do you develop all of these new locations where Kate is being summoned to, for these archaeological digs, or for these relics that she has to assist with during an investigation?
Yeah, well, that's the sad part is I have to actually go over there and do research. So
Oh,
someone
Ah,
has
that
to do
does
that.
sound super sad.
Um,
yeah.
I have based her in Suffolk,
Hmm.
which is a part of England that is definitely not on the tourist trail, but it actually should be because it is such a historic part of England. It was the center of the old Anglo-Saxon culture in England. So Norfolk would be the North folk, and Suffolk would be the South folk. And so,
Ah.
also the world kind of passed it by. It's a little like the Cotswolds, but without all the rich people. And uh, so the villages are just impossibly historic. One of them is called Lavenham, and it's probably the best preserved medieval town in England.
Ooh,
It's
Oh,
just
wow.
beautiful. We have
I'm
stayed
making a
there
note of that.
several times. Yeah, if you go, it's definitely worth visiting there and to stay for a while. But what's interesting about England is if you look at it on the map, it's really a pretty small area.
Hmm.
It doesn't cover a lot of square miles, but each little place in England has its own character because that's the history of the place. When people even 100 years ago wouldn't maybe go 15 miles away from where they were born in their entire lifetime. And so each little place, they have their own way of speaking, they have their own traditions, they have their own special foods, they have their own history, they have their own folklore. And so you can travel just a relatively short distance and be in a completely new part of England. And so Devon is really very different than Suffolk, and it's definitely different than London. It's different from you know, the Yorkshire Dales. And so Bob, my husband and I spent, I think a couple of times there. We spent time there, and it was just, I mean, it's just beautiful for one thing, but there's just so much atmosphere, and it's just so much fun to pick up that atmosphere. And one of the things we did that book is called A Collection of Lies, and it takes place in Devon. So all the people that we're used to are still home, and I think they have a few phone calls or something with them. But it's basically Tom and Kate on their own on their honeymoon, working with a small museum, a small local history museum. And the idea of that came from a small local history museum that we found in Devon, which is just
Oh,
fascinating. And I just fell in love with it. And I just thought this would be a wonderful place to set a Kate novel.
You know what? I just, you know, there's so many things that I want to ask you right now, but unfortunately we only have like 10 minutes left. So I'm trying to figure out, what to get in, because I just have to say kind of your description of the areas. I immediately went to All Creatures Great and Small, because I
mhm.
love the way
Yeah.
they do those vacation shots, almost where you see the glorious, lush green Midlands,
Oh,
and my wife and I are always, we got to go there sometime, kind of
you
thing.
do. You really do. And actually the new All Creatures Great and Small,
Hmm.
can you picture Scaledale House like you're seeing it? We actually stayed in a like a VRBO attached to that,
Oh,
right
wow.
attached to Scaledale
Really?
House, and right
Wow.
across the square was the Devonshire Arms. It's not
Yeah.
called that. And we actually found way up in the Dales, way away from everything, the where they filmed the interior of uh of that pub, where they
Hmm.
go, and there's that. I mean, it was amazing. We
Oh,
had the best time on that trip. I absolutely love it.
the
So Kate may have to do that sometime.
I have to make like a list because I am fortunate enough that my husband, his company, they have a building in London, so we get to go maybe like once or twice a year if we're lucky, and each time we try to explore a little bit more outside of the city because I think we've walked every like street in London at this point. But we went one time out, and I'm blanking on the actual name of the castle, but it's where Anne Boleyn and her family lived.
Hever Castle. Hever
Yes, yes,
Castle.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the fact we took a train and we got off at this station that was in the middle of nowhere. There was a tiny road that we were like, okay, I guess this is the only way out. But everybody who got off on the train with us, they just disappeared. I was like, I don't know where they went, because George and I are walking along this dirt road, like through fields and farms. And we're like, where did everyone that was on this train go? We must have missed the stop. And then lo and behold, we just like walk into this palatial castle, and it like
Yeah.
with these beautiful gardens, and it's like, how is this just here in like it was so magical, and just so there's just something so I don't even I without saying the word magical again, ethereal about the landscape and how England is designed, because it was so cool. um
It 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 is. But one thing now, you should get your courage up and actually
mhm.
rent a car and drive.
Oh God. I will make George do that, and he would be fine with it. I would just need to be sedated, because I cannot get through the being on the opposite side of the road.
You
I'm still
you
like
would.
my head is swiveling all the
You
time of like,
would.
where are the cars coming
Yeah, no, you would. In fact, actually, it's kind of funny. Every once in a while, when I'm home, I have to like rethink. Okay, right side.
from?
Like when
Hmm.
after we get home, I have to like
Mhm.
reorient myself. So
Hmm.
you could do that, and that
We
gives you
have
so
to,
much
yes.
freedom.
Hmm. There's
So
so much to explore.
yeah, yeah. I do want to explore book six, just a little bit here, A Grave Deception. Connie, one of the things that I want to ask you about, this just blows my mind. Kind of the setup for the book is that Kate gets asked to look into
Yes.
the potential murder of somebody from way back in the 14th century. So that's like 1300s, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So is that like I'm reading and it's like so for folks who aren't familiar again with your stories, um, where did that idea come from? Somebody being murdered 800 years ago.
Well, the this estate on which this it's so an archaeological dig with students from the University of East Anglia come to explore this 14th century plague village. So the plague came to England in 1348. By the time it got up to Suffolk, it was 1349. And in this little village, just about everybody died of the plague. And so it was abandoned. And people just kind of left it because they didn't want to take things away from it. They just wanted to get out of there and save their lives, the little handful of people. So now it's being excavated and they unexpectedly find this body. Well, the owner, the very wealthy owner of the estate on which it's found, has a medieval exhibit in his lower level, which is very much like, Downton Abbey, High Clare Castle. That's actually the Carnarvon family. And he was the one who funded the archaeological excavation that found Tutankhamun's tomb,
Oh.
Oh,
Howard
wow.
Carter. So they have an Egyptology exhibit down in their lower level. So I thought he can have a medieval exhibit because his wife, who disappeared without trace 10 years earlier, she wanted to be an archaeologist. And so this is kind of to honor her. And so the owner of the estate, knowing that Kate has the ability to look into the past and into old records, says, well, this may not be possible, but could you look into it to find out who she is, first of all, because we don't know who she is. And then, if possible, who killed her, because she was both very pregnant and murdered.
Wow.
So Kate agrees to try, although she doesn't hold out a lot of hope, but Kate actually does succeed in her task. And that was fun because, finding out what records exist and how she might find something like that out.
And the fact that, that people are out there in the world today doing stuff like that. I think that that is
Yeah.
what is really, really incredible, is how much history or how much that we can learn from history. And not only is Kate dealing with this ancient murder investigation, but then you've also added a layer of a more contemporary murder that occurs during the dig. And I just think like the brilliant weaving of these storylines is so well done. It's such like a especially with being in book 6, you're giving readers something new and exciting to kind of sink their teeth into. And I think it's such a brilliant writing technique to have that history involved along with your current day murder investigation. And it's such a delight. And we have Alma chiming in the chat, Connie, saying how amazing it sounds. I love all things archaeological. And she also has said that she has books 1 and 2 of yours on her Kindle and needs to get to reading them because this conversation has gotten her so hyped up.
There we go. Yeah.
So, and as I'm
There's
I'm
6
looking.
books out now. Hint, hint, folks.
Yes.
Treat yourself to Christmas early.
And because our time together, Connie, is running a little bit short, for folks that maybe want to get a little bit of a taste of your storytelling, is there a way that they can do that by possibly signing up for something and supporting you?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. I write a monthly newsletter, which I think is I put a lot of thought into it. I think it's entertaining. It's not just by my books. Here's what I'm doing, but there's always a story at the beginning of it. And so if you go to my website, which is connieberry.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. And for those who sign up for my newsletter, and by the way, you can always unsubscribe and I will never know. So don't feel like you're, obligating yourself forever, but you get access to my exclusive short stories. And there are several that are Christmas stories using the characters in the Kate books. The first one is called Lady Barbara's Christmas Miracle, and that is one of my very favorites. But then I also have a series of Inspector Blackstone mysteries. These are 1920s mysteries. He is a metropolitan policeman, and he's newly married, beautiful young wife, and they have together a few adventures. Although, to get a taste of my writing, I've had people say that my writing in those stories is very different than it is in the Kate books, and I think that's true. It's third person. Um, it's from a man's point of view, which I had to do things a little differently. But those are fun stories. And last May, my husband and I had a chance to go to South Africa and to Botswana and Zimbabwe and
Oh, wow.
Zambia. And so Inspector Blackstone and his wife are sent down from London to South Africa to solve um, a problem down there that involves one of the very loyal scouts in the Boer Wars has been arrested,
Oh, wow.
and he was such a loyal person, and so they're down there. So that was really fun.
Oh, it says you do so much amazing travel. That's so that it's so inspiring for writing. That's one thing that like I
Hmm.
really have discovered the more that I do travel. That's like wow, like this really it helps kind of fuel that inspiration.
Yeah.
And as we begin to wrap up, Connie, our time together, I'm wondering, do you have any recommendations for our viewers about books, movies, TV shows, anything that's entertaining you these days that folks can that they can check out and see? It does obviously doesn't have to be mystery themed, but we are open for any and all suggestions.
Yeah, I loved the of course All Creatures Great and Small. That's I I had seen the old one and I loved the old series so much that I was sure I wasn't going to like the new series as well. Well,
Hmm.
was I wrong? I mean, I have just fallen in love with everything about it and I cannot wait for the new series to come. And
Hmm.
I love the books, just everything about that. But I'm reading actually right now. For some reason, I'm into reading the Golden Age mysteries. I got
Oh,
started doing that. I
mm-hmm.
just finished one that's called Jumping Jenny. I think it's by Anthony Berkeley that has this really amazing twist at the end. And another one called Fire in the Thatch. I think that was E.C.R. Lorac. But some of them don't hold up as well, but there are some that really do hold up. So I'm kind of going on recommendations from Martin Edwards and a few other people and trying to read some of the really, really well done, not Agatha Christie, not P.D. James, not Nio Marsh, but just some
Hmm.
of the more obscure ones. And that's really been fun. I love the Anthony Horowitz books, all
Mm-hmm.
of them. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And the wonderful um, M is for Magpie Murders is on
Yep.
television, and I think
Yeah.
there's a new one coming on that, which is just so well done.
Hmm.
And and I also love Richard Osman, and of course the Thursday Murder Club. Now
Mm-hmm.
that's on television too, and that was so wonderful. The characters, the casting was just perfect.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of wonderful stuff to read out there, and there's a lot of wonderful stuff to watch, and there's a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, isn't worth my time. But there's enough, and again, just starting from when I was a child, mysteries. I just love solving mysteries.
Those are some fabulous recommendations.
Yes.
I love
Absolutely.
that mystery. There are mystery adaptations that are seeming to be like more and more prevalent. I just felt for
Yeah,
the longest time that there was such a drought in like mystery movies. But I think once Knives Out came, once that was released, I feel like people realized like, oh, actually, people do like solving mysteries, and they like. I mean,
yeah.
people love true crime,
I
so
think
it's like,
there's a
why wouldn't
new
they like
one.
fictional ones? There is, yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I can't remember what it's called, but that's on our.
Wake Up
That's on
Dead
our.
Man.
Have you seen it yet,
Okay.
JC?
No,
I'm
because
hoping to
actually,
see it over the holidays.
Yeah,
yeah,
same here.
yeah, yeah. Because actually, I told my wife that we're not gonna. I was gonna put my foot down, when I'm allowed to, that we weren't gonna watch that until we watched Thursday Murder Club. And
Mm,
so we watched that this past weekend. So Connie, you are so right. The casting was brilliant. The whole hints and allegations about Helen Mirren's character's backstory was so much fun. And
Oh,
it was just an absolute delight. And all of Richard Osman's books are so much fun. I also have to take a minute to do a follow up from last week, because
Yes.
those of you who are watching last week, I told you all I was going to go see Hamilton, and I did, and it was amazing. So my other recommendation on Disney Plus, there is a Hamilton sing along version of the
Oh,
televised play, which I highly recommend, because as much as the production of Hamilton, as amazing as it is, I can't keep up with it. The hip hop, there are some times that it's just they're speaking and rapping so fast that my brain just doesn't work fast enough. So I'm like, okay, I don't know really what they said, but I kind of get the gist of it. So if you're like me and your brain, it works about as fast as molasses in January, as they say, check out the sing-along version of Hamilton. It's a lot of fun. It's the original Broadway cast, and you can actually you know what they're all saying, and it really helped me understand what was going on too. So
nice.
that, and also I'm reading The Clocks, an Agatha Christie story from 1963.
Ooh.
So kind of doing a little bit of the way back thing. So that's a lot of fun too. I love Dame Agatha. I haven't read her for a while, so I decided to go back for a little bit. So, what do you got for us,
Fabulous.
Sarah?
I will suggest, and this really couldn't have been a better show to suggest it on, but there's a new Acorn TV show called Art Detectives,
Oh yeah,
starring
yeah.
yeah,
Stephen Moyer.
Hmm.
yeah.
And all I know is I was like, oh, that's the guy from True Blood way back in the day. And to see him in this role as a quirky detective who is the sole representative of the Heritage Crime Unit in London as part of the Metropolitan Police. But then he gets dispatched to different sites across across
Hmm.
England, when there is a murder involved with a piece of art
Yeah.
or relics or just any type of item of historical note. And it is really good. I'm
Yeah.
on episode 3, or just watch episode 3. It's very, very fun. The mysteries are they're really well done mysteries. The artwork that they talk about is really exciting, and we're really enjoying it. So I highly recommend folks check it out if you are subscribed to Acorn. We have Regina saying that she is planning to watch the new Knives Out movie, and there's a new season of Shakespeare and Hathaway out
Oh, okay.
that is on the books to check out, and she agrees. I was so taken aback that he is such a great choice for this role, because all I think about is him as Bill. Uh, and to
Stephen
see
Moyer, you're
him,
talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yes. And I mean, there's a part where he's like sniffing a library to find a book that's been used recently because the person was like eating some type of like Indian food, and he's sniffing to see if he can figure out which book they were touching so that he can see like what they were looking. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. Highly recommend it. Just as much as I recommend checking out the Kate Hamilton Mysteries. Book
Yeah.
6 is out now, A Grave Deception. You guys will have so much fun learning about
There it is. Ooh,
the histories
nice.
and mysteries of Great Britain. Connie, this has been absolutely lovely. I'm so glad that we got to chat with you. Thank you for being here this afternoon. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to stop by and share all of your wisdom and your amazing writing experience with us.
Well, thank you so much. This was really, really fun. I could continue chatting with you for a very long time. So hopefully we'll get to catch up sometime at
Yes,
a
yes. And you
conference or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes,
Love to do
and
that.
you are welcome to come join us at any point in time if you'd like to come for a follow-up
Hmm.
conversation, because as always my list of questions is like I got to 2 of them and then we went off on our wild ride. So we really thank you for being here. We're thrilled that you had a wonderful time, and we're very glad for our support from our live viewers who were here with us during the stream, as well as folks who are joining us after the fact. This is our final show of 2025, if you can believe it. JC and I are going home for the holidays and going to take some time off until a little bit after the new year. I believe that we're back on January 9th, but sign up to our Substack newsletter notifications for more information, because my brain may be failing me on that. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we wish you all a very, very happy holiday season. We hope that you are able to rest well, that you're able to spend time with loved ones, that you take care of yourselves, that you find time to curl up with a good book and treat yourself. And we wish you a very, very happy new year, and we will see you in 2026. But until then, everybody, stay bookish. Have a good one. Bye-bye.